The sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long and dark across Ravenwood. The once bustling town was eerily silent. Shops were shuttered, their windows dark eyes staring out at the deserted streets. A chill wind whistled through the trees, rustling leaves like whispered secrets. The old town clock tolled 8 times, each chime echoing in the stillness. Ravenwood held its breath, waiting for the night. Ravenwood wasn't always like this. Once laughter had filled the air, shops bustled with activity, and children played in the streets, but that was before the rumors. Whispers of a thief, silent and swift as a shadow. The Phantom, they called him. He moved unseen, taking what he pleased, leaving no trace but a whisper of fear. Fear had seeped into the heart of Ravenwood. It clung to the shadows now, as real as the chill in the air. People hurried home before nightfall, bolting their doors against the darkness. Only the bravest or the most foolish dared venture out under the watchful gaze of the moon. Tonight, Ravenwood waited, and so did Detective Clara Hayes. The Phantom. Just the name sent shivers down people's spines. He was a legend, a whisper in the night. Some said he could walk through walls, others that he could vanish into thin air. No one had ever seen his face and lived to tell the tale. But one thing was certain. He was as elusive as smoke. His calling card was a single white feather, left behind as if in mocking salute. A feather as light as air, as untraceable as the thief himself. He had baffled the police, leaving them chasing shadows. The Phantom had become a symbol of Ravenwood after dark. He was the fear that lurked in the alleys, the doubt that whispered on the wind. But Detective Clara Hayes didn't believe in whispers or shadows. She believed in facts, in evidence, in the cold, hard logic of deduction. And the facts were clear. A thief was at work in Ravenwood. A thief who was clever, daring, and very, very good at what he did. Clara was determined to unmask the Phantom, to drag him from the shadows and into the light of justice. She would be the one to end his reign of fear. Detective Hayes was not a woman easily discouraged. She had a mind like a steel trap, and a gaze that could pierce the thickest fog. She had built a reputation on her sharp intellect and unwavering determination. No case was too small, no criminal too clever. She treated every investigation with the same meticulous care. This time was no different. The Phantom might be a ghost story to some, but to Clara, he was just another puzzle to solve. She had spent weeks studying the case files, poring over witness statements and crime scene reports. She had walked the streets of Ravenwood, talking to its people, her keen eyes missing nothing. She knew every dark corner, every hidden alley, every rooftop with a view, and she waited patiently like a spider in her web for the Phantom to make his move. Tonight, she felt it in her bones. Tonight, the game was on. A high, piercing shriek split the silence. It was followed by another and another, until the night air vibrated with the sound. The alarm, the Phantom had struck. Clara felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. She raced out of her hiding place, her footsteps echoing on the cobblestones. The scream had come from the Museum of Antiquities, home to Ravenwood's most prized possessions. Clara knew the Phantom favoured only the rarest, most valuable artifacts. He was a thief of exquisite taste, a connoisseur of the irreplaceable. Tonight, it seemed, he had set his sights on the legendary Raven's Eye diamond, a gem said to hold the trapped soul of an ancient king. Clara reached the museum in record time. The heavy oak doors lay splintered on the ground, a testament to the Phantom's brutal efficiency. She ducked under the police cordon, her sharp eyes scanning the scene. There, a glint of moonlight on glass, footprints barely visible leading up onto the roof. The chase was on. Section 5, atop Ravenwood's precipice. Clara scrambled up the fire escape, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the distant wail of sirens approaching, but the Phantom had a head start. He was like a shadow himself, flitting from rooftop to rooftop with impossible agility. Clara followed, her own footsteps silent and sure. Years of chasing criminals through the urban jungle had made her as nimble as a cat. The rooftops of Ravenwood were a treacherous maze of chimneys and gables, bathed in the silver light of the moon. The wind whipped at Clara's coat, carrying with it the distant clang of the town clock tolling midnight. She refused to lose sight of her quarry. He might be a ghost to others, but Clara would catch him. She had to. Suddenly, the Phantom stopped at the edge of a rooftop. He stood poised on the very edge, silhouetted against the moon, the stolen diamond glinting in his hand. Clara approached cautiously, her hand hovering over her holster. She had him cornered. There was nowhere left to run. "It's over," she called out, her voice firm despite the hammering of her heart. "There's nowhere left to go. Surrender the diamond and come quietly." The Phantom turned slowly. For the first time, Clara saw him clearly in the moonlight. He wasn't at all what she expected. He was just a boy, no older than 12, with a mop of messy brown hair and eyes wide with fear. He wore a tattered coat several sizes too big, and his small frame trembled in the chilly night air. The fear in his eyes was real, but beneath it, Clara saw a spark of defiance. He stood tall, clutching the diamond like a lifeline. "Stay back!" he shouted, his voice cracking with strain. He clutched the diamond tighter, his knuckles white as bone. Clara stared at him, her mind racing. This couldn't be. The Phantom wasn't a master criminal, a shadowy figure of legend. He was a child. Before Clara could collect her thoughts, the boy did something unexpected. He took a step backwards, not away from her, but towards the edge of the roof. He stood poised on the precipice, the wind whipping his hair around his face. "One step closer," he warned, his voice trembling, "and I jump." He glanced down at the dizzying drop below, and Clara felt a chill run down her spine. This was no empty threat. He was desperate, cornered, and clearly terrified. And then, in a flash, he was gone. The boy, the Phantom, vanished into thin air. One moment he was there, teetering on the edge of oblivion, the next he was gone. He left behind only the echo of the wind and a single white feather fluttering softly down onto the rooftop. Clara stared at the spot where he had been, her mind struggling to grasp what she had just witnessed. The Phantom, the terror of Ravenwood, was a child, and he had escaped. But as Clara watched the feather drift away on the wind, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. They would meet again, she and the boy who called himself the Phantom. Of that she was certain. The chase, it seemed, was far from over.